It's great to have you, sir.
Well, thanks for asking me on, John.
We were soft, trying to do a little soft shoe, John, while we were waiting for you.
My apologies, my apologies. Listen, I was just here when Snopes, which is putting out an article, and they said they're on a time limit, that they were going to say my numbers of New York City, the death rate in New York City being 250 times greater than Tokyo and 200 times greater than the average of the 10 largest cities in the world. They were going to say that was false. So I had to call and explain how to do basic mathematics, add, subtract, multiply, divide. So my apologies.
No,
it would have been a horror if Snopes had come out and said, John McAfee, that's nonsense. That his numbers on death rate is nonsense. I would not have been able to recover from that.
Well, and you being a cryptographer and a mathematician and a whole bunch of other things, John, I think it would be a little strange if they didn't think you could do numerator and denominator.
I don't know. I said, couldn't you work this out yourself? I mean, listen, it's simple. You go on to the World Atlas, you get the population of Tokyo, 23 million people. You get the population of New York, 8 million people. You get the deaths in New York, over 12,000. You get the deaths in Tokyo, 97. Well, it's not, sorry. It's actually great sum. It's now 368 times greater than the death rate in Japan, and over 300 times greater than the average number of deaths of the top 10 largest cities in the world. Now you tell me something's not wrong with New York's numbers.
Yeah, and I think you tweeted this as well today, John. Something about, they kind of pack them into subways pretty tight in Tokyo too, don't they?
Whoa, and see, they haven't shut down. They're still packed. They have 2 men per opening, with the doors open like this. 2 men pushing, and there are videos of it happening today. So, no, nothing's changed. They're not on lockdown, and they have 97 deaths, which matches almost every other city in the world in terms of per population, except for New York, which is 360 times now greater than any other city in the world. Now, please, can we not have some realistic opinions here?
Folks, you are listening to John McAfee. His Twitter handle is official McAfee. And of course, he has 1 million followers. John was the man behind the first antivirus software, which bears his name, McAfee. Was eventually purchased by Intel and then rolled back out, I think, John, with TPG or something like that. One of the private equity firms bought the last time McAfee was rolled out.
I don't know. Listen, the last time I even had anything to do with it, I was in the courtroom in New York with Intel lawyers who were trying to say I could not publicly use my name. No, seriously, that went on for 2 years before I won that. I'm gonna please. I mean, the legal system in America. There's too many lawyers. I'm sorry. We do have more lawsuits in America than the rest of the world combined. And of course, I've been sued over 200 times, so I have a reason to complain.
Yeah, you're pretty much an expert on it.
Yeah,
so folks,
I am. See, never name a company after yourself because it may be successful. And then if someone trips and falls on your property and they say, that's McAfee's fault, that's McAfee guy, they go get a lawyer and sue. I've had over a dozen trip and fall lawsuits for $10 million, what they wanted. None of them won anywhere near that. I settled almost all of them, none of them more than $20,000. But people would drive 3 or 4 states away just to trip and fall.
Just a trip on your property.
Yes.
Well, now, John, by the way, folks, John has lots of views. If you're lucky enough to have followed his career, you've seen incredibly interesting things that he says all the time, whether it's making love with whales or other, John. I mean, that was one of my favorite. And then you basically dispelled the idea by saying, look, a whale swims twice as fast as an Olympic swimmer. How are you going to keep up with that?
And also the whale's vagina is 40 feet under the water. I mean, even if you could swim at that many knots, how do you reach it? Plus, it weighs 70,000 pounds. It's 50 feet long, and when they get angry, they can smack the sailboats and things into smithereens with their tails. Oh no! I mean, the absurdity. Nevertheless, people believe that. So I went on to say that I predicted that the intercourse with whales would surpass surfing as the largest water sport in the world. And so, and people going, no, it's not going to happen. Like, what? Are you serious?
John, I saw a very interesting interview with you and CNBC back in 2009 called The Bubble Decade. And they were talking about things that had blown up and this and that. And it was when no one even knew if you were still alive. And all of a sudden, there he is. He's fine. He's on TV. In fact, he's on in our monitors at CNBC.
Listen, I've been hounded by the press so much in my life that I went for 5.5 years. I refused to talk to anybody, not even the local newspapers. I've been on CNN at least 50 times. Some interesting stories about that with Janice and like messing with them. But anyway, and I went, enough is enough. I'm not having it. So reporters would call. I actually, in Belize, had people coming down to me. They would just fly down to Belize and seek out my residence and bang on my door. I just have to thrown out by my security. I would. I did my security just say, who are you with? New York Times, leave. Now, so I stopped. And then after 5.5 years, I got in all that mess with things. I had no choice.
Well, John, you started off when you first came on talking about COVID on this interview and, the coronavirus, and you're doubting those New York numbers. I doubt them as well. How do you think the U.S. has handled COVID as a country, not just isolating down to New York, but it seems like the rest of the country, the numbers are the same as almost every other country on Earth, with the exception of New York City.
No, not true at all, Dan.
Not true.
Almost all of California is problematic. The entire country. Okay, here's the thing. The United States has a population of 328 million people, which is 3.6% of the world's population. But 27% of the world's deaths from coronavirus. Now, you look at, and these numbers, by the way, people look at infection numbers. You can't tell. Why? Less than 0.5% of the population has been tested, so we just don't know. However, anybody, anywhere in the world who dies of an LRTI, well, the lower respiratory tract infection, is absolutely tested for it. Now, and the deaths are tested by usually 2 to 3 of different test kits. Why? Some of them have massive false positives and so on. So if these 3 tests match up, then they have died of coronavirus, unless you're in New York. Okay, so we know that it's at least an upper, because most of the tests, none of them have false negatives. They all have false positives. So know the death rate is at least a maximum upper limit. The number of infected, we're not going to know for years, all right? Even though Oxford came out with a study 2 days ago saying that half of England is infected, which is great because that means it's less deadly than the flu. And Stanford last week came out with exactly the same study. And everybody's going, no, that can't be true. No. Well, wait till MIT comes out with it. And Cambridge comes out with it. Pretty soon we're all trying to go, yeah, it is less deadly than the flu. And that will happen within 2 weeks, I promise you. But the handling on it, I think the sane people were countries like Sweden or Japan that never locked down. And the rationale for this, if you listen to epidemiologists who are not under the thumb of a hospital, working for a hospital, or working for the CDC, or working for the government, not many of these left anymore, they all say the same thing. Lockdown is creating more deaths and more problems. even if we accept that the U.S. numbers are correct, the 6 most locked down countries in the world, that's the United States, England, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany, account for 8% of the world population and 75% of the world's deaths. Please, people. The unlocked down countries like Japan, lowest death rate in the world. Now they say, oh, but Sweden's death rate is high. Well, yeah, this is a cold weather virus like the flu. The death rate from the flu in Sweden is 5 times everybody else's, just like it is in Tierra del Fuego, or in southern Brazil, where it's pretty cold all the time. So yeah, but if you look at the countries that refuse to lock down, they don't have a problem. The death rates are so insignificant. Literally, in Japan, there are people die falling off of ladders every year that have died from COVID. So now that seems to be an interesting statistic. And here's the problem with the press. The mainstream media uses numbers, things like horror, staggering numbers. Almost 250,000 people in the world have died. Let's assume that's correct. Let's assume, even though I know it's massively padded, let's assume that's correct. You know, the population is 7.8 billion people. That's one death per 2 million population. That's staggering numbers. The flu kills 630,000 every year. What about diarrhea? Can anybody guess how many people die from pathogenic diarrhea? Meaning, someone, you touch, because pathogenic diarrhea, you can catch it from touching people, or not just airborne. How many people do you think die from pathogenic diarrhea every year? 15 times as many as have died from COVID. Please, people, you have all fallen for the biggest scam of all times. That is, let's use raw numbers in the absence of any relativity. Yet, 250,000, that's a huge number. That's more money than I make in a lifetime. But it's an insignificant number in terms of the population. And so this is what's happened. No one is using. Here's the issue. I'm 74. How old are you, by the way, my friend? John. How old are you?
I'm 62.
Whoa, dude. You look like you're in your 40s. Okay,
that's what I love to hear, John. Thank you.
Jesus, God,
you
you're
look
62?
a lot better. You look better than a 74-year-old as well, my friend.
Whoa, 60. Okay, then this is not going to apply. Is there anybody on the line who is under the age of 50? There must be. Well, anyway, if anybody listening is under the age of 50, you simply can't die from this virus. Well, yeah, there have been 11 in the entire world possible deaths of people under 50. 3 of them, after autopsies, they found out one was a massive heart attack and so on. But no, if you're under 50, you're not going to die from this. And if you don't die from it, the disease is no worse than the flu. Literally. Yeah, you're going to have to go to bed for a few days. You have to do the same with the flu. I mean, Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson is over 50. Well, he was out of commission for less than a week. No, people, you can't die from this if you're under 50. And yet, why? Listen, you're going to lock people up. Why don't you lock up the elderly? Why are you locking up the working population, people? That's insane, because the working population, by and large, is under 50 and cannot die from this disease. Why then have we locked down the entire world? Does it make any sense to you? No, not to me. But
herd immunity.
I could go on about this forever, so we should change subjects.
All right, we will.
I will begin to rant otherwise. Okay.
All right. What spiked your interest in cryptocurrencies, John?
That's a good question. So, listen, when I left McAfee, we had maybe 5,000 employees. Now, of those, maybe 10 were decent programmers. Okay, I say decent. When I say decent, I mean they're worth 20 of any other. Okay, One of them was a guy named James Zaromsky. So when I left McAfee, I took him with me. And he's worked for me many, many times on many of my projects. But I hadn't seen him for years. I was in Belize. And he called and says, I'm coming down. I go, well, Jim, how are you? I'm coming down. When he came down, he brought the Bitcoin white paper with him. He was mining. We had a little chat. What are you doing these days, Jim? So I'm mining. So I'm going, mining? What? And for what? Gold, diamonds? I mean, I have no clue. But you know, it was a quick conversation. I didn't question. I said, oh, good. Well, tell me all about it when you get here. So he did. He bought the Bitcoin white paper. And I'm a mathematician. I understand the world through math. I don't know how else to understand it. I really don't. If you can't count, and here's something I have from mathematics. Numbers are inconvenient for people. Like 2 plus 2 is always 4, no matter how convenient it is to you. No matter how you would wish it was 3 or 5 or 10. And this is what's happening with coronavirus. I tell people, here's the death rate, here's what's happening. Oh, yes, but I'm going, what? There's no argument here. I mean, you might argue that whose numbers are incorrect for the death rates, and they may be, but they're certainly not. There's certainly no higher than what they're reporting. I can promise you that. And still, people argue. Well, that can't be right. Okay, I don't know. I mean, listen, I know that in the new math, especially in California, a 2 plus 2 under certain circumstances can be 22, and possibly other things. But see, I never studied Common Core math, and therefore I'm stuck in the old world where 2 plus 2 is just 4. Maybe that's my by the way, you mentioned followers. I lost 35,000 followers because I refuse to shut up about what I see as the stupidity of the lockdown. People got seriously angry. You idiot, you didn't. Okay, go ahead, leave. If you all leave, I'm not going to shut up. Because it is the truth, people. Math doesn't fucking lie. Oops, sorry, doesn't lie.
That's all right. We're not on cable or
broadcast. Well,
so whatever you want to say.
Janice told me to mind my language, which is very hard for me. You know, I just catch myself a quarter of a way into a word and go, I can't say that. But thank you very much. No.
Sure. By the way, Janice is a peach. She's a Janice, great lady.
This gentleman just said you are a peach.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody says that. It kind of upsets me a little because, you know,
don't be jealous.
Everybody goes, is Janice there? Wait a minute, you know. Yes, she is a peach, and without her, I would actually, and she knows it, be lost. And I have never, and I do this. I'm doing 5 podcasts today. Not one of them has ever not said, oh, and by the way, tell Janice she's doing a great job. There you have it.
Yes, she is.
I'm sorry to cut into this time.
So when we were talking about crypto there, then, are you surprised that the pandemic that they're calling COVID isn't spiking cryptos more? I mean, I think, John, that...
No, I'm not. And here's why. Please. People go, hey, everybody's going to jump into crypto. Well, no, they're not, and here's why. It's not as easy as opening a bank account, is it? I mean, no. You've got to understand what it is. First of all, what is crypto? So you got to do some research. And there's no education programs out there that you can register and spend 2 days in the classroom. No, you got to do this stuff on your own. And even after you've done two days of research, you're still unsure. People go, I don't know. How many people forget their keys, for example? How important are the keys? Well, I don't know. I've got more important things to worry about, right? And so the vast majority of these 7 billion Bitcoins that are lost weren't stolen. They were simply lost because people could not remember their keys. So no. So that's why they're not going to jump in, and why they haven't. Why is why it's just not going to happen. What is going to happen is the halving is coming up sometime this month. We don't know when because we can't predict it exactly. I say between the 12th and 18th. Prior to that, sometime there's going to be a huge spike in the price of Bitcoin and an immediate collapse within a week after. Okay, the same thing. Listen, I was running MGTI. I was the CEO 2016, 17, where MGT was the 6th largest Bitcoin miner in the world. We had almost 7,000 S9s cranking away 24 hours a day, chewing up more electricity than the state of Washington almost. And so I know about Bitcoin, and I was there during the quarter. Remember the quartering? Same thing. Before the quartering, the run-up was horrendous. And within a week afterwards, it had collapsed. Same thing will happen now. You're going to have a huge run-up. The day after, you're going to have kind of and then wham. That's my prediction. It could be wrong because we are in extraordinary times, and extraordinary times bring extraordinary circumstances. But if it follows traditional patterns, that's what's going to happen.
Now, John, some of your Silicon Valley friends, like Andreessen Horowitz and Peter Brigger over at Fortress, I know both. I know Brigger much better. And I know Andreessen Horowitz just raised $515 million for another fund. And
Yes.
This fund, is a venture fund. So that maybe they'll invest in some new mining. Maybe they'll invest in a host of different project coins and things like that. You're a guy that's, backed a lot of different projects, including talked about Monero a lot, I've seen.
Yes.
Why are you interested in these other projects?
A variety of reasons. First, I'd like to mention, Mark. I met Mark when he founded Netscape. And in fact, I was working in Tribal Voice, and we had developed the first capability for an application to interface with Netscape, because Netscape was the only browser at that time, 1988, I think, maybe 1988 or 89. So I went over, and he was there, and I actually demonstrated, and he was going, wow. Today, it's so trivial. Everybody's doing it, but back then, we were the first. So he impressed me as one of the smartest men I have ever met. And if he remembers me, I'm pretty sure he will.
I bet he does.
Yeah, who knows? I met Bill Gates once, and that was in '84, and I'm positive he does not remember me, and he doesn't want to, because I've been snarling on his trail ever since about the nonsense he's involved in. Anyway, Mark is brilliant. Why am I involved in these different projects? Because crypto. Okay, no one has seemed to notice the following extraordinary aspect of crypto. First of all, if anybody denies it is a world-changing technology, you need to go home, lock yourself in your mom's basement again, because it is. Cryptocurrency and the blockchain more than crypto, is world-changing. It's a powerful technology, and the blockchain has been used by companies as diverse as Walmart to solve their supply chain problem instantly and efficiently. And cryptocurrency has the potential to free people from financial slavery of fiat currency. It's just powerful. But the extraordinary thing about it, it is the only world-changing technology that has come from the people and was given to the people through open source programs. Every other one comes from either the bowels of some secret military program, or from IBM or Microsoft or Apple or Sony or Samsung, who then own that technology. It's not ours, it's not the people's. They may do with it as they wish. No, this is the people's technology, and we have taken what Bitcoin did. And I think Bitcoin is probably the worst investment a person can possibly make today. I would do something like Monero or something else. In spite of my prediction, by the way, my prediction was made the same day that I said, oh yes, I have sex with whales. No, I did. And I predicted that Donald Trump would be discovered eating human brains, and that Bitcoin would be $1 million. Well, if you run the numbers, Bitcoin $1 million is greater than the gross national product of the entire continent of North America. There's nothing in the world that big. So obviously they can't be possible. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it has the possibility to free us. What Bitcoin did is open the door to a fertile, virgin field of possibilities. And in that field, we have planted the most miraculous and powerful things. Privacy coins like Monero, that absolutely free you from anybody watching what you're doing with it, up to the point that you have to go to a centralized exchange and exchange it for something. Then you're messed up. But decentralized exchanges have now obviated even that. Take a privacy coin on a decentralized exchange, you are completely free from government control because, number one, you cannot shut down the decentralized exchange ever. Ours, the McAfee DEX, our logic is all smart contracts on the blockchain. We have no KYC and no AML. Why? Not my job to police the world, people. Sorry. So in any case, if the SEC ever does grab me and say, you must shut it down, we're putting you in jail anyway, but shut it down or we'll torture you, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. How am I going to do it? God himself could not shut down that exchange. It's on the blockchain forever. That's the beauty of the blockchain. It is an immutable record. So anyway, do you see the power that it gives us? That's one example. That's one example. And it's ours. Unfortunately, unless we understand the power that the blockchain gives to the people, we'll lose that power. Why? China has already announced. In fact, just an article was published today that I gave in a Chinese newspaper about the new Chinese digital currency. Okay, yeah. You don't want to use that because they're going to track every penny that you make and spend instantly as you make it and spend it. The U.S. is doing the same thing, and all governments will do that. I'm predicting that they will outlaw privacy coins. Why? That is the greatest threat to government's ability.
Well, now let me ask you about that, John. So you've no doubt watched Chairman Powell as he is. And by the way, you having bourbon or what is the dark drink?
I'm Irish.
Ah, Jameson.
Yes.
All right. Well, I would have
joined
anyway,
you. That's okay. You watched the chairman.
Yeah, I watched Chairman Powell, and obviously one of the reasons that Satoshi, whoever that was, it's not you, was it, John? That's one question I had.
No, but I know who it is, but no, absolutely not.
Okay. One of the reasons that Satoshi issued that or produced that white paper and came up with the idea behind the,
that's as good as I've
blockchain,
seen.
Decentralized and all the rest, was his frustration or their frustration with.
It's their frustration.
Thank you. With their frustration with the ability of the central bankers to basically make your money worth less just by issuing more of it.
That's right. See, and the beautiful thing about, well, not all cryptocurrencies. I mean, listen, like on the Ethereum blockchain, there's probably 10,000 ERC20 tokens now. Okay. Now, with those, you can issue as many as you want. Absolutely no problem. But for the real coins, those that have their own blockchain or a fork of a legitimate blockchain that you cannot just in 5 seconds manufacture another billion coins out of thin air for those things. No, like Bitcoin, 21 million. In any way in this world, you can make 21 million and one. It can't be done. So that's your guarantee that number one can't ever be inflated. The second thing is within the bounds of reason, it can't be controlled. That you are your own master. Do you understand what that means? That implies that it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much, let's say, Monero. I don't like talking Bitcoin because no one uses Bitcoin. You can't buy with Bitcoin anymore. Give an example of anything on the dark web you can buy with it. Used to be everything, but now it's all Monero. But anyway, the cryptocurrency universe guarantees that no matter how much you make, I can have as much Monero as I want. It doesn't give me any power over you. Do you understand? All it does is give me power to buy yachts, women, airplanes, mansions, but no power over you. There is the difference. With the US dollar, who has power over you? The owner of that dollar. You don't own those dollars, people. They belong to the Fed. All right. You're just borrowing them, or they're in your care for a short while, and they can at any moment by issuing another $2 trillion, which they just did, by the way, and your dollars are not going to be worth 15% less than they were the day before. You understand?
I do.
And so as more and more is issued, the money becomes less and less valuable. With cryptocurrency, you got a fixed number, and I'm sorry, that's it. End of story. Different for every specific crypto, but still, that is your guarantee that what I get cannot be controlled. You can't do anything with my money. I've got Monero in my own wallet. I've got the keys. If you can't do anything. That is the difference, and that is what can free us. What scares me is that people are not using crypto for what it was intended. That is to buy and sell goods and services. Instead, they're using it to trade. Oh, good, let's trade Monero for some Bitcoin and shuffle the market around. And let's say it looks kind of scary. I'm going to put everything in DAI until it settles down. Please, people. You've taken the golden key to unlock your cage of slavery, and you're scratching your ass with it instead. Please stop. All right? Please stop.
Now, I've got a friend, Alex Massioli, who's over at Quantrex, and they do a lot of facilitation for institutional trading of cryptocurrencies. And he says, ask John about what you're excited about at crypto at the present moment, and are you working on any certain projects in the space right now, John?
Anybody who knows me knows I'm always working on projects in the space. The McAfee DEX I've been working on for 2 years without telling a soul until it came out in beta 4 months ago. We're going to finish beta, I hope, in June. Distributed exchanges are the most complex systems. Certainly the most complex I have ever developed, certainly way more complex than antivirus software, okay? I mean, by levels, by orders of magnitude. So I'm still obviously involved in the McAfee DEX because right now we've only implemented Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tron, and Binance, okay, and EOS. There are no privacy coins, and we can't. Here's the problem with, let me mention the one problem with Monero. It cannot be placed on a distributed exchange. The architecture of that blockchain, I mean, it's sophisticated and slick, and that sucker, it's not going to be broken into until way into massive quantum computers, right? Not happening. But you can't put it on a distributed exchange. So I, for the past year, have been working on a new blockchain called Ghost. It's the equivalent of Monero in terms of privacy. You ain't breaking that either, but it'll run on our DEX. And the problem I may have mentioned earlier with Monero is that it's super, super private. You ain't breaking that. However, you have to trade it on a centralized exchange. And centralized exchanges know what? You can get on one. You have to give me name, your address, Sometimes
AML, KYC.
sometimes you got to even take a photo of your passport. Well, on our exchange, nothing. We don't ask your name. We don't want your name. We don't get your IP address. We don't have any idea what your email is. You are an anonymous entity that comes in, trades, and goes away. That's the beauty. No, not for the Security and Exchange Commission or the IRS. No. That's not beautiful. That is ugly for them because they can't find out anything. See, I'm on the run because I've refused to pay taxes for 10 years. Not that I couldn't, I refuse. I believe that the taxation is theft, and it is unconstitutional. And the Constitution guarantees that the government shall pass no laws, no regulations that can restrict a person's ability to earn and make their own living. Meaning you can't go in and take even 1 carat out of its carrot field. And yet they're taking as much as 30% of our money every year. Tell me what the difference is. I don't see any. And so I've 10 years ago, I refused. Every year, I've sent a note to the IRS saying, hi, Jon McAfee, here's my social security number. I'm not filing taxes this year. You know where I live. Now, that's not illegal. They could easily come and say, okay, well, we're taking your house, your car, and your bank, and it's up to you to prove that it's yours, right? That you don't owe it to us, right? That's a terrible battle to have to play, but they never did. I paid over $50 million in taxes. Have not even remotely received $50 million in services from the U.S. government. They're quite the reverse. So I just stopped. 8 years, it didn't bother me. I started going on national stages, London, Stockholm, Bucharest, China, Hong Kong, saying the same thing. Listen, people, if you don't want, I'm not suggesting you don't pay taxes, but if you don't want to pay them, here's how not to do it. Privacy coins and distributed exchanges. Now, when I first started speaking, there were no distributed exchanges, but I knew they were coming. And privacy coins alone, even with centralized exchanges, if you're careful, squeak by. But no. Well, about a week after I first said that in China, at the Chinese National Security Conference, I keynoted 6,000 people live. Good Lord, that was something else. Anyway, I was the chairman of NGT, the 6th largest company on the New York Stock Exchange, $800 million market cap. The SEC filed a subpoena against the company. Now, if the SEC files a subpoena, you must say that you've been subpoenaed by the SEC. That's rare that they do that shit because it destroys companies. You may not, by law, tell anybody what it's about. You want to know what that subpoena was about? Now that I'm in hiding, who cares? I will say it. It was about an ex-stockholder. They wanted all the information about the stocks he had purchased and sold. That was it. We were delisted the following day from the New York Stock Exchange, which is what they do, matter of course. You can't have an SEC subpoena, which may go on for years, decades, and be on the New York Stock Exchange. And so they delisted us. The day after, our stock dropped from 800 million to 3 million. Now, I left the company. It was useless to continue. They had destroyed us. That was their first shot across the bow. They thought that's going to shut me up. No, it just pissed me off. And I got even more vocal. Finally, last year, they convened a grand jury. The IRS did this time, not the SEC. Okay, the SEC, what could they do? They have nothing else. So the IRS filed against Janice and I and 4 of our employees for tax fraud. We found out about it 5 days before. How did we find? Listen, grand juries are the most secret things in the world. You don't know about it until they come to arrest you. Okay, and grand juries have a 100% conviction rate. 100%. Why? Only prosecutors are allowed to give evidence. You're not even allowed as the defendant to know what's happening. You can't have a defense attorney there. You've got no legal rights All you have is they knock on your door and they arrest you. So, but I found out why I'm John McAfee. It's kind of hard to keep any electronic information from me. We left 5 days before. Left 5 days before, and this has to be the last question.
Okay.
Took our yacht. I went to the Bahamas, and we've been on the run ever since. So anyway, I have to go. I'm so sorry, and I'm sorry
No,
I
it's
was
all right,
late.
John. It's a pleasure. I'm glad you were able to join us.
All
I hope you continue to entertain us, and I wish you much success,
Thank
continued
you.
success, and I
Thank
hope
you.
we get to talk again. Thank you, sir.
And thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, John. That's John McAfee, folks, joining us here with Market Rebellion TV. We look forward to other of his adventures for him to join us again. So with that, I hope you have a great weekend. Or if you're watching this on replay, send us some questions that you'd like and some guests that you'd like us to bring on. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great time wherever you are. Stay safe.
Baby,
On this website, I got it cheaper, under 1,000.
how much is shipping?
Oh, shit.
How much is shipping?
Free.
Wow, you saved $300.
Well, here, I have to say more than that. So if I kind of tell me what you like, like these restaurants. Okay. Can I tell you what you're, what, finish?
Okay.